But a Virginia woman says she believes her mother died as a result of the vaccine.
The woman passed away several days after getting her second Moderna vaccine.
The death of an Ionia County wife and mother.
They found her dead in her room.
I was in full body convulsions.
Blood clots.
Flash pulmonary edema caused by anaphylaxis.
Abnormal clotting or pulmonary emboli.
Every bone and muscle in my body was shaking.
Her platelet levels had fallen.
She died.
He died.
Fell into a coma.
Died Wednesday.
2 weeks after getting a first dose of a Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine, a 56-year-old doctor in South Florida died this week. It's possibly the nation's first death linked to the vaccine.
This Orange County son worries his mom died because of her second Moderna COVID-19 vaccine dose. The day after her second shot on April 14th at a CVS in Orange, Griselda complained of the expected side effects, chills, body aches, and a fever.
She looked really pale though, really pale. And she just said she was tired and she was gonna go home and sleep.
2 days after her second dose, Griselda's family says they found her dead in her room. A handful of deaths, including Griselda's, are under investigation because they happened 1 to 3 days after the person got a COVID-19 vaccine dose.
The Facebook picture that captured Augusta Turiaco's delight at getting a COVID vaccine. The 55-year-old Italian posting, "Fatto, done," on March the 11th. Despite developing a headache and feeling unwell afterwards, she returned to her work as a music teacher. Her condition worsened. She fell into a coma and died 19 days after having the AstraZeneca injection. Medical records seen by Sky News show blood clots had formed in Augusta Turiaco's body, including in her brain. Her platelet levels had fallen.
Her 58-year-old mother died less than an hour after receiving the Pfizer vaccine. Her mother had flash pulmonary edema caused by anaphylaxis. The medical examiner told Jones they would not be performing a full autopsy.
That ripped my heart out all over again because when something like this happens unexpectedly, you want answers.
Hamilton County Coroner Lakshmi Samarco is investigating why the seemingly healthy college junior died suddenly. Samarco says Foley received the J&J COVID-19 vaccine Saturday afternoon, the day before he died.
The wife, mom, and animal rescuer developed a persistent headache a week after receiving the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. She died April 19th from an acute subarachnoid hemorrhage, essentially a brain bleed.
Evans' obituary says she died Wednesday from a reaction to the COVID vaccine. In a statement, the Kansas State Health Department says a 68-year-old started experiencing anaphylaxis.
Little is known about the person who died in Placer County, their age, gender, what vaccine they received, and if they had any underlying health conditions. But the Placer County Sheriff's Office says the person tested positive for COVID-19 in late December and was vaccinated January 21st and died several hours later.
And within a couple hours, he just couldn't breathe on his own. He had stomach problems. He was complaining that he wasn't feeling good.
That's the message tonight from Kyle Zook. His dad died 4 days after getting his second shot of Pfizer vaccine.
And by the time he clocked out, he couldn't breathe at all.
That was January 5th. Within hours, Tim Zook was admitted into the ER of the same hospital he was working at. 2 days later,
he was so bad, he voluntarily told them, "Put me on a ventilator. I want to live." Those were his last words.
The sudden death of a former Detroit anchor and media executive brought loved ones and colleagues together today.
The Detroit media icon was found dead at her home last Tuesday by her husband just 1 day after taking the COVID-19 vaccine.
And in Orange County, an X-ray technician has died after getting his second dose of the Pfizer vaccine. According to the OC Register, 60-year-old Tim Cook had an adverse reaction within just hours of getting that second shot, and he died within a matter of days.
On Thursday, we learned of an Oregon woman in her 50s who developed a serious blood clot in combination with very low platelets and died.
An Auburn woman posting a warning tonight. She saw her grandfather get the COVID vaccine at a senior living facility Thursday. She writes 20 minutes later, he realized his legs felt tingly and he was having shortness of breath. He was wheeled out in an ambulance. 1 hour later, he was in ICU on a ventilator, and 3 hours later, he passed away.
Brandy Parker McFadden sits in her Vanderbilt hospital bed, unable to stand.
Our youngest is like, "Are you ever gonna walk again?"
And so, we just reassure him this is extremely rare.
The mother of 3 received her second Pfizer COVID shot April 16th. Hours later, an unusual sensation started in her legs.
That's what created the sense of urgency.
James rushed Brandy to the emergency room at Vanderbilt, and then the unimaginable.
I woke up and I was like, I can't move my arms, I can't move my legs. And so he's freaking out. The doctors are panicking.
I'm holding her hand, and her hand is limp throughout the whole thing while she's screaming in pain. And, when the test results are all coming back negative.
10 days later, Brandy is able to move her arms and wiggle her toes. She will now undergo intensive physical therapy, hoping to walk again.
I'm gonna fight. I'm a fighter.
17-year-old Everest Romney got his vaccine shot. A few days later, Everest couldn't even move his neck, and then the migraine started. His mother finally got him a CT scan. Then she got another one ordered on his head, and that is when doctors found out he had 2 blood clots inside his brain, another on the outside of his brain.
The hardest thing was I let him get that shot. And he was healthy and well before. And I was doing my best, and I thought it was the right thing to do. And I don't want to discourage any parents from not doing that, But you question. You can't help but question it when it all goes wrong.
On March 6th, Terrell received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine in Ashland. But 4 days later,
I began to feel a little discomfort in my armpit. And then I began to, a few days later, began to get an itchy rash. And then after that, I began to swell and my skin turned red.
this red rash quickly spreading, covering Terrell's entire body. His legs and hands almost unrecognizable from swelling and discoloration.
A rare heart issue cropping up in young people following COVID vaccinations.
The CDC is investigating rare cases of heart inflammation among vaccinated teens and young adults.
They're investigating a possible link between a heart condition and the vaccine in teens and young adults.
16 to 24-year-olds who received the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine have experienced higher than normal cases of myocarditis, an inflammation of the heart muscle.
This is a condition called myocarditis. That refers to an inflammation of the heart muscle.
Scientists had been expecting somewhere between 10 and 102 cases of the rare disease, and so far have received 275.
With myocarditis, the heart is not able to pump as efficiently as it should.
It seems to start with chest pain, shortness of breath, and exercise intolerance.
In 50% of patients, the condition goes away. In the other 50%, the heart muscle does not completely heal.
It's very hard for us to predict who will and who won't recover.